Today, on Be Something Wonderful, believing this one thought changes your entire life experience. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. In yesterday's video, I talked about at the beginning of this one client that she was having a difficult time with her boss, with her supervisor, and that every morning she has a meeting with this person. And it's always difficult. The boss is really tough on her and tough on everybody. And she was really telling the story of this difficult boss and that she really didn't want to go to these meetings. And so what we talked about is it's really about you imagining something different. Right? Imagining your boss softer, imagining your boss nicer, imagining your boss being helpful and being warm, and essentially telling a different story, imagining and telling a different story of your boss. And so I said I hadn't heard back. Well, I heard back from her yesterday, and she said, well, the morning meeting was canceled, and then it was rescheduled again. And then it was canceled yet again. So she never met with her boss for that follow-up meeting, but she feels like the energy's moving. But hear this, guys. She's imagining it differently. This changes reality immediately. The meeting was canceled. Who knows how her boss will show up in the next meeting? But she's definitely bending reality here. That was one case. And then the other situation was regarding someone with her ex, and that they got back together, but it's the sort of same behavior. He would send texts every once in a while. He would text her, but he wasn't consistent, and he wasn't always warm, and sometimes he was cold with his replies, and it was always her reaching out. It was always her trying to make something happen. Same thing. I said, it's just that you're remembering him wrong. Just like with her, she's remembering a boss wrong. Remember, everything's in the past. So you get to remember them differently, meaning you get to think about them differently. You get to tell a different story. So I said, instead of being tempted to send a text message or get something going in 3D, do it metaphysically. Right? Whenever you're tempted to send a text or wanting to get something going or see what he's doing or something like that, do it metaphysically. And then even receive his reply metaphysically, the way you want it to be. And this is what she did. And sure enough, her phone lit up, right? And she couldn't, in fact, she already had plans. I think it was a weekend with her girlfriends that she couldn't break, that she was even thinking about it, right? But she decided to go on it. And her phone continued to light up with messages, right? The guy that didn't send a lot of messages, the guy that wasn't one, with really nice things like saying, I'm thinking about you and so forth. This is how quickly things change when you tell a new story. This is where your power is. Remember, it's not the events or the outcomes in 3D reality that matter. You're only ever thinking and you're only ever feeling those events, right? You're only ever thinking about them, right? It's not the events itself, it's your thoughts about them, the story you're telling yourself, because you're only ever feeling the story you're telling yourself. So let's hit this. So this one thought, if you truly believed it, would change your whole life right now. What is that thought? Here it is. How you think and feel, your entire life experience comes from the story you're telling yourself right now. That story, and it could be a story you're inner talking, but it's what you're imagining about your life. It's what you're imagining about others. That's your story. What are you thinking? What are you imagining about others in the world and your relationship to it, and even about yourself? That becomes your entire life experience. Remember, the 3D world, everything outside of you has no power over you to make you feel anything. You're only ever feeling what you're thinking. And that thinking is the story you're telling yourself about the world. And you get to create it right now and in every moment. Right? I can't believe some of the things you've said. I can't believe how he can be so cold. This was with the text messages from the boyfriend that she just got back together with. Well, again, that's the story you were telling. Once you started telling a different story, you went metaphysically within and changed the story. That has to change, right? I don't understand why she's so mean, your boss, right? As soon as you tell the story, well, we don't know yet how she's going to show up. But the meetings are canceled, things are changing, things are moving. You wrote the script. Remember, you create the entire story. It's like making a movie or writing a book and then reading your own book and saying, I can't believe this book is unfolding like this, or it ended like this. Right? You made the movie, you made the script, you told the story. How can't you believe it? I know, right? You wrote the whole thing and you're shocked at the outcome. You're responding and reacting to your own book, to your own movie that you wrote. Do you get this, guys? Instead, write a new script, write a new movie, write a new ending. You get to do it. That's within your power. So, the outside world has no power to make you feel anything. That really is the thought that changes your entire life. Think about this. If feeling is coming from someplace else, it's not coming from the outside world, it's only coming from your thoughts about the outside world, you have complete control. Right? Nothing comes from the 3D world, or as Jesus said, below. It doesn't come. There's no power over you, right? You're only ever feeling, you're thinking. This is Genevieve Davis. I love her stuff. She wrote the magic books. And I'll leave a link to those books. But a great quote from her, right? Great spiritual teacher. She talks about the story, the words you use, right? You're only ever experiencing the story you're telling yourself, or imagining, or thinking of. It's the same thing. The inner talking, the inner speech, or even your outer speech, or what you're writing, or what you're imagining, or even what you're daydreaming of. That's all the story. You're only ever feeling and experiencing your story, you're believing in the moment. What are you believing in at the moment? Thoughts only hurt if you believe them. That comes from Byron Katie, who wrote Loving What Is, right? Thoughts only hurt if you believe them. What's the story you're telling yourself? You get to create the story and then believe the story that you want to believe about yourself and others. So powerful, guys. And so remember when Jesus was in front of Pontius Pilate, the night before his resurrection, and Pilate's trying to talk to him. Pilate's asking him questions, asking him, who are you? Jesus doesn't answer. The I am doesn't answer to such an absurd question. It doesn't listen to the 3D, to the lower state of consciousness. Pilate represented the 3D world, the lower state of consciousness, right? Your thoughts of fear and doubt and anxiety in your old story of the world and the people around you. Jesus didn't answer. Your I am doesn't answer to that. Just like my other client, I don't live there anymore. I remembered it all wrong. Somehow I remembered it all wrong. That's it. Your I am doesn't answer to that. And then Pilate is insistent, right? And then what does Pilate say to Jesus? You don't respond, or you don't answer me? Don't you know I have the power to crucify you or set you free? That's when Jesus answered. And what did he say? He said, I would have you would have no authority over me unless it had been given from above. Strong words. John 19:11 to Jesus to Pilate. That's your spiritual authority, right? No authority means your spiritual authority, right? The 3D world, that lower state of consciousness, your old stories have no authority over you. That I am, over me, capital M, I am, that's Jesus. That's the Christ within you. That's your power, that's your I amness, unless it had been given from above. What's above? Source, God, your I am awareness. Unless it's given from you, from the higher you, from your inner being. So those stories have no power over you unless you tell them and believe in them. Wow. Right? Fear, doubt, limitation. That's what Pilate represents. All of that, lack, the 3D world, thoughts and stories about it, the people, events, and circumstances, none of that has authority over you, just like Jesus said here, and none of it can make you feel anything. This is big, unless you give it your I am awareness, unless you give it time, space, and attention. Nothing and nobody outside of you can make you feel anything, ever. That feeling comes from a different place. It comes from within. It comes from the story you're telling yourself. It comes from what you believe about yourself in reality. I have no authority. I have authority. This is what Jesus says on John 10:18. In John 10:18, I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. This is Jesus talking about his life. Right? When Pilate says, I have the power to crucify you, Jesus goes, I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. What is he really talking about here? He's talking about rising up to that higher state of consciousness, leaving the old man, the old story, the unwanted states, the unwanted realities, and rising up and occupying, imagining your new reality, your new story, how you would like things to be. That's what Jesus said. I have the authority to lay it down and the authority to take it up again. You have the authority to lay down that old story, to lay down that old narrative, and then take it up again. Take up a new narrative, a new story. Who are you going to resurrect into now? What state of consciousness? Are you going to be born again into a new story, or are you going to keep carrying that old story? Right? And create the same life experience over and over again. Right? The power to rise in consciousness, the power to be born again. That's that story. That's your story. Jesus is your story. The story of Jesus is your story. Your total life experience is the thoughts you are thinking and the story you're telling yourself about the 3D world and its outcomes. In other words, about below. Right? It has no life without your awareness and your giving of it time, space, and attention. That's how reality is created. You give it time, you give it space, linear time, you give it the space, and you give it your attention and awareness through your story. But it has no life without you. It has no life without your awareness, without your light. Right? This is huge. What does this mean? Guys, the magnitude of this, that the 3D world, like Jesus saying to Pilate, has no authority over you, that it can't make you think or feel anything, is tremendous power. This means struggling and wanting and needing and grasping for certain outcomes, certain things to happen, to be with this person, or to get this job, or to get this house, or to have that car, or to change your family, or to change your friends, or to get them to respond differently. All of that's in vain. It doesn't matter because it makes no sense to struggle for outcomes or to want things to be different in the 3D world. It makes no sense because the thoughts and feelings don't come from that. They only come about your thoughts and feelings about them. It's only the story you're telling yourself about those outcomes, not the outcomes that create those feelings within, that create those thoughts. It's only the story. Wow. What others think of you, changing the world, being attached to certain outcomes. None of that makes sense when you know that nothing outside of you has power over you to make you think and feel anything. So powerful. So powerful. And that's really the definition of letting go, of letting things be as they are. Letting go, letting everything be okay, not minding what happens becomes your natural state. It becomes your dwelling place. Why? Because you don't mind what happens. Because it has no power over you to make you feel anything. So how can you mind what happens? You can interpret it. You can tell the story. You can create it in the moment. Because you determine your relationship to all of it. It all comes from within you. You stream it all. Right? You write the script. You write the movie. It makes no sense to attach yourself to a certain outcome when you create it all. Right? And when and because the world, the people, events, and circumstances have no power over you, how you feel only comes from your story and your thoughts about it. You are invincible. Do you hear this? This is the real key. This is what sets you free. Because the world, the people, events, and circumstances outside of you have no power over you. In other words, how you feel only comes from your story and your thoughts about the world. Then you are invincible. Fear doesn't make sense. Judging doesn't make sense. Doubt doesn't make sense. None of that makes sense because none of it is coming from the outside world. Remember I told that story, I think in a couple videos. It was based on the teachings of Genevieve Davis. But you're walking down a dark alley and you hear footsteps behind you. And suddenly those footsteps start getting faster and louder. And your heart starts racing. You're thinking, oh, you're creating a story now. That maybe I'm going to get attacked, I'm going to get robbed, I'm going to lose my life, whatever. Those footsteps keep getting faster and harder, and you start walking really fast. Now you're really fear. You've made up a story that something bad's going to happen. And then you hear a voice, a comforting, friendly voice. It's a friend of yours. They yell out, and then suddenly you feel differently. You feel secure. You feel happy. You feel relieved. What's the difference? Your friend didn't change. What changed? Your story, your thought about it. The 3D events don't change. It's only the story you're telling yourself. All that fear, all that anxiety, all that worry about what may happen changed immediately when your thoughts changed about it, when you suddenly you knew it was your friend. And so you were feeling secure, you were feeling happy. You created all of that. That was still the same friend behind you. But your thoughts about it, the story you told yourself changed. That's powerful. Nothing can go wrong when you're in it, when you know this. Nothing, because it's always your story. Failure becomes impossible. Non-fulfillment doesn't exist. Life becomes your playground. You create for the fun of it and not to fix yourself or to feel better or to get attached to some sort of outcome or to need someone in your life or need someone to text you or call you, right? Or need your boss to be different or need your coworkers to act differently with you. Wow, that's so powerful. And remember what Jesus said, with people, this is impossible. With the 3D world, with the fear, the lack, the limitation, with that old story, it's impossible. But with God, all things are possible. With your inner being, with telling the story from that higher perspective, from the true light of who you are, from what you really want, from wish fulfilled, from the thought that there's no limitation for what you can be, do, or have. Now all things are possible. All your power comes from above. That's what Jesus knew. That's when he was in front of Pilate. That's what he told. He told us, my power comes from above. You have no power over me. Wow. When you are no longer judging, criticizing, complaining about, fearing and doubting 3D reality and its outcomes, and all the people, events, and circumstances, when you stop judging and criticizing, complaining and fearing and doubting, all possibilities exist. But when you're complaining, when you're judging, when you're fearing, you collapse the wave. You're trying to limit infinity now. And infinity you're limiting the path of least resistance. And you're wondering why things are taking so long or why things aren't going your way. You're telling a story that's not true, right? You are no longer, so when you're not doing this, when you're no longer doing any of that, you're no longer collapsing the wave. You're no longer trying to limit infinity, right? But being attached to certain outcomes, craving, wanting, needing things to happen, limits the possible outcomes, limits infinity. You're limiting something that can't be limited. And you can only see that. You feel stuck now in an unwanted reality. But the paradox is when you stop all of that and step into your power, realize there's nothing outside of you that can make you feel anything or think anything. You let go, you release all those self-imposed limitations, and now you're one with divine supply. Now everything is open. That means all things are possible. That's powerful. So try this. This is what I did with one of my clients. And it turned his life around, right? Everything was going in his direction. He felt light. Light as a feather, right? The 48-hour letting go challenge. And now it's becoming almost his dwelling place, right? This new idea that nothing can harm you outside yourself. Nothing can make you feel anything unless you make up the story about it, unless you allow that. You can lay down your life and you can pick it up again, just like Jesus. It's up to you, right? Let go of trying to make anything happen. Let go of all that. Let it go. You're trying to process your way to everything you want, and it's exhausting, right? This is what one of my clients, he said he's exhausted, right? Let go of being attached to any specific outcome. That being attached to want something and need something to happen is exhausting. You're mentally exhausted attaching to that. Let that go. Let go of existing, of demanding those around you, insisting those around you be different. I think I meant insisting, not existing. Insisting those around you be different. Let go of trying to fix and improve yourself or others. Let go of trying to manifest or create reality to feel better. That's exhausting. Just go to the improvement. Just go to feeling good. Right? Know that nothing in 3D, it doesn't come from there. Tell a different story. And when you tell a different story, you're going to feel differently about it. Right? And just commit to having fun. Let the 3D world go. Believing this one thought changes your entire life experience. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of Higher Consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, like and share our videos. That's how we get our message out. You can follow us on Facebook at Be Something Wonderful. We have a group called the Be Something Wonderful Ambassadors on Facebook. That's facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Karen, and visit our website anytime at tomkaren.com or besomethingwonderful.com. Until next time, with great love, with great light, with infinite gratitude, creators, see you soon.